The reason that I thought that this might be helpful stems from some of my experience working in the community as a clinician and working with maternity services, child health services for 35 years, and knowing the trauma that is sometimes experienced around birth and the effects of that on families over time. In terms of havening, my experience of working with role havening has been so enlightening in helping people address lingering trauma that's related to another person. It could be another family member, it could be a perpetrator, it could be somebody who's long passed away, but enabling clients to address some lingering heartfelt trauma and to be able to express their emotions in a way that they've not ever been able to do. And if we look at the way that there's quite a few ways that role havening could be used, and I'd ask you to, if you wish, I think it would be really helpful to have a look at Tony's paper, which is on role havening. If you go onto the Spyglass on the Facebook, Tony has a really good paper that's been on there for 5 years. So we're looking at a different variety of ways that role havening can be used. So it could be as a practitioner taking on the role of another, and certainly we know that Ron has taken on the role of Jesus Christ in the past in supporting a change in a client. I'm not suggesting that everybody does that. It could be a client exploring their inner child, so actually looking at themselves in a role in a different way. It could be more of a gestalt, so using the empty chair and the client expressing to that an other represented by that chair, with the client doing that and the practitioner observing, leading and supporting, but not actually stepping into the role. It could be outcomes, so you're looking at future self and looking at the desired outcome and doing some role havening around that. So we, in terms of my experience, it has been incredibly powerful. But I know also in my experience as a trainer that student haveners, it takes often quite a while for them to get into using role havening because it's probably got a bit of mystique about it. And the reason that I've invited and expressed an interest to share Alison's work with you all today is that there's been some exceptional experiences there. And Alison came on board 2.5 years ago, and as it happened that weekend, we had our 2-day training and the optional day that I started probably 3.5 years ago in Australia, which we call an integration day, where we look at themes and ask experienced haveners to come and share with new people. And on that weekend, it happened to be the topic was about tocophobia, so birth phobia, and another experienced havener who worked with havening, birthing and postnatal support, breastfeeding, postnatal depression. So a perfect weekend for Alison to do the training. And in those 3 days, by coincidence, if there's anything such as coincidence, we did 3 lots of role havening. And Alison assumed, therefore, that this is what you did and it was normal. And that was represented in her case studies that were absolutely phenomenal, right from the beginning, addressing very, very hard, long-held traumas around birth experience, both in older women looking at their own experience earlier on in life, or sometimes looking at people who have been babies having birth experiences and birth trauma. So I really felt it would be helpful and important to share some of Alison's expertise with you. What I would say is this is often quite a triggering experience. It can bring emotions up. So I would ask you, or I'd request you, if you feel that you are being a little triggered, is to do self-havening. throughout the demonstration. And also, if you hearing enough and you want to have a little bit of time out to mute the sound on your computer, there will be time for feedback, there will be time for reflection and discussion afterwards. So having said that, I would like to hand you over to Alison Shaloe and say welcome.
Thank you, Louise, for that introduction. Hello, everybody. Louise has kind of nailed it, really. So I have been a midwife and a lactation consultant. So most of my work is where I've been going in to see families where they've got breastfeeding issues. And actually what you find is not really the breastfeeding issue, it's actually the difficult birth. So when I witnessed havening for the first time, instantly I knew that that was going to really help the women that I see. And it's been instrumental in clearing birth trauma. So even if there are other traumas below that, it just means that it clears that top layer, which means that they can get on with the challenges of early motherhood, but without all of that heaviness, if you like. So I found it to be really helpful. And as Louise said, I thought roll havening was what you had to do. So I just kind of jumped in, and I've probably healed about 60 birth traumas by now, probably. This evening, I'm going to be working with Andrea, who's up here. I'll just introduce in just a moment. So we've already had a conversation about her birth. So I've got obviously more background than we're going to share here. But she's obviously got some 25 years later, still has some residual issues around the birth. And what I'm doing is really focusing on roll havening. And just for the sake of time, because we are going to stop for a clap at 8 o'clock, and I don't want to shortchange Andrea at all. So perhaps have a look out for the things. So we will give you the list, and it will go into the havening portal along with Tony's handout as well about roll havening. But I often start with, so often I've used various forms of havening before I get to roll havening, and we'll just see how it unfolds. As you all know, that with our havening you never know how it's going to unfold, but we're trying to focus it on roll havening for the purpose of this, but you'll see. So firstly, as the introduction, I introduced to the client that I'm going to be I say, do you think this might be appropriate if there's somebody that they've perhaps got a bit of an issue with or had a bit of an issue with, and say that the next voice you'll hear will be my voice, but it will represent the voice of, and then it's the person. Then I'm actively listening to what the feelings, the experience and the emotions are. So really, really listening, because in a moment I'm going to acknowledge, which is the next step, to acknowledge those things that they say. So I'm listening really carefully because I want to repeat back those words so they're really feeling heard. Yeah, and then so reflection is part of that. And then sometimes it's appropriate to give an apology. Not always, it depends on the circumstance, but many of the times when I'm working with birth trauma, there's some underlying resentment towards staff perhaps, and it's sometimes an apology that they may never actually receive. So sometimes that feels appropriate. And then a resolution, which is where you resolve the issue as the person. And the thing that I find most helpful is when you say, I did the best I could with the knowledge, skills, experience or situation I was in at the time. And in the experience of healing birth trauma, that seems to be the point where people go, they just, I don't know, it happens every time, it seems. I mean, it may not happen this evening, who knows where we're going to go, but often they just feel heard, and they come out, and then we do which we'll see how we do for time, but we do an outcome havening where we try to just change what happened there originally. So they've got a new image in the mind, but we'll see how it all unfolds. Andrea is trusting me this, so thank you, Andrea. Andrea, would you, we'll get ready to start. I think, has Tony disappeared? Because I'm not sure whether we have to, what happens next? Oh, you're there, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm here. So it's all there for you and Andrea. So we will need Andrea, obviously, to unmute herself.
Yeah.
But really,
so if I go to speaker view, will I just see Andrea?
If we keep it all on speaker view and there's just the two of you speaking, it should be flipping between the two of you.
Okay. So at the moment I can see everybody. So should I move it to speaker view?
Speaker view. Go to speaker view and then we'll get Andrea speaking.
Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Okay. So we've had a conversation earlier on as well. We've had some email exchange. In a moment, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take yourself back some 25 years when you were at the birth of your twins. I invite you to close your eyes if you want to.
Yeah.
And when you feel like you're there, I'd like you to tell me. So just take a moment to really get back to that place. See what you saw, feel what you felt, hear what you heard.
So I tried to access, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, yes.
I meditated a little bit before, just to get in touch with what was going on around it. There was an image of me observing me that came up.
Mm-hmm.
The image was not very clear, but the emotions around it are definitely sort of where I usually get them all around the chest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about the heart for me. And there's always this sort of line that comes up in the center of my chest.
Okay, okay. So if you had to put a number on how you feel now, if 10 is the most distressed and 0 is not distressed at all, when you think back to that.
I'm going for a 6.
6, okay. So what I'd like you to do when you're ready is to start applying havening touch from your shoulders down to your elbows, or your palms if you're more comfortable with that, okay?
I work well with face havening.
Okay, so if you're happy to do face havening, yeah. I'll mirror you. So we can do face havening.
Confinement and all that, I'm not supposed to, but I do feel.
No, that's okay. We'll do whatever feels best for you. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to imagine yourself going up some steps. There's 20 steps in front of you, and I'd like you to say 1 and then count the steps as you go up out loud.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Okay. How do you feel about humming a tune on here?
That's okay. Yeah, I'll go along with that.
Okay. I know it'll hum with you, but otherwise you hum.
I'm going to row my boat.
You humming? Okay, so can you count down from 43 in threes for me, down to 0?
Oh, Lord.
33. Let's say 33 in threes.
Okay. 3, 30, 27, 24, 21. God, I can't count.
Right. Count me any numbers.
21, 18, 15, 12, 9. It's useless.
You're almost there.
3.
Excellent.
1.
Excellent. Okay. So if you just stop havening just a moment, and then just tell me, when we started, I asked you to go back there and you felt like it was about 6.
Yeah.
How do you feel you on now?
Okay, it's lighter, but the sensations in my body have shifted.
Okay.
So I'm getting a slight pain in the left shoulder, and I'm getting something coming up in my throat,
Okay.
like a desire to express something. It's not clear what yet, but there's something shifting up.
Okay. So could you put a number on it? If it was 6 before, it feels a bit lighter.
4.
4. Okay. So what I'd like to do is to continue with the self-havening. You can do face again. And then this time I'd like you to imagine yourself going up some colourful steps, 10 colourful steps. And as you go up each step, just say what colour it is.
So I'm going to go red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, violet. So that's Roy G. Bid.
Yeah.
I'm looking at count at the same time.
So I'm keeping check.
Forest green, lime green, fuchsia, teal.
Lovely. Okay. So if you were having a friend over for dinner, perhaps not this evening because we're busy, what would you cook?
I wanted to try a new vegan soup.
Okay, so if you were going to try the new vegan soup, what are the ingredients and how would you make it?
Okay, so I'm going to use a veggie stock cube, no salt, and I'm going to, well, first of all, I'm going to fry up, not fry, but just gently get some onions going in some olive oil and chop up some garlic. And I'm going to throw in there, just to sort of saute very briefly, some carrots and some leek chopped up, and also some, what have I got, the pre-cooked chickpeas. There's something I've forgotten. I'm going to throw the garlic in. So I'm turning the heat down really low, and I'm going to then add the stock cube and some water, and I'm just going to let it simmer really gently until the veggies are just nice and soft. And then I'm going to take out some of the chickpeas and puree them, so a bit like hummus. And then I'm going to add to this something. I'm just tasting it. I'm going to add the hummus back into the soup to heat it up again. Then I'm going to pour the soup out into 2 nice large soup bowls. I'm going to put some fresh chopped cilantro on top, a dash of olive oil and some fresh lemon juice just for a bit of tang. And I just happen to have some freshly made pita bread just taken out of the oven. And to dip.
Wonderful. What a wonderful soup. Might try it. Not now.
It sounds good. I'll go and make some.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yum, delicious. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to just have a think back to the original event. And at first you felt like you were at a 6 and it came down to a 4. Just wondering where you feel, what the number is now. I think that's come down a little.
Okay, so the pressure is, it's gone down to a 2. There's like a bubble.
Okay.
Just here.
And is there a feeling that's there? Do you think there's a feeling? What's that feeling that's there?
Oh, and well, it feels like a bubble, just about, you know, the back of my throat, round about the Adam's apple.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like there's sort of it's like a balloon. There's a tail just hanging down that needs to sort of, as if it's going to pull something out.
Okay. So what I'd like you to do now then is I'd like you to go back to the birthing room.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And just try to imagine yourself there and just see what emotions come up there for you, if anything. Or say what you saw, or whatever's coming up there.
I'm not getting too much emotion coming up around it, actually. It's not.
Okay.
It's feeling okay. The image is very dim.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get hold of some scent or smell, that, because I relate very much to that. See if there's anything. It's like, well, the nurses have come in. Funny, they're in old-fashioned uniform from the UK, and not what they wear here. And they're cleaning everything up. It's all cleaning up.
Yeah. Do you want to carry on havening yourself as you're talking? Now just tell me what you can see or hear or feel or smell.
Well, I'm looking, there's the room I was in, there was a garden outside, and what I'm getting now is the green grass I could see from through the windows, and it's the image I got earlier on was very dark, and now it's a lot more light. A lot more, you know, I'm looking out through the window out at the world, rather than needing to concentrate on what's going on inside. I can turn my back to what was going on inside quite comfortably. Okay.
And how did you feel, if you think back to that time? How did you feel when you were birthing your baby?
Oh, trapped. Trapped. It felt invasive at the time, because there were so many people, as it was a double birth. Like I said in the email, there was like 11 people in the room, because people who were just coming off of their break came to check, because it was twins. And
how did that make you feel?
Uncomfortable, actually. Because I wanted to birth in water, and I couldn't do that, so that was I was a bit unhappy about that. I felt that I hadn't, my wishes, felt as though my wishes hadn't been taken into account. I was very concerned that the boys should be born you know, healthy, and that I hadn't had any painkiller whatsoever, because I didn't want to, and that's why I wanted to have a natural birth. And I was using my breathing. I felt, as I said in my email to you, I felt as though my voice had been, as though I wasn't allowed to scream out or shout out as I wanted, because I was told that I was going to frighten the other women, and the other people in the clinic. So that felt like, you know, naughty girl, shut up type of thing, and that felt really uncomfortable to me. I felt as though I couldn't express what I wanted to, which went against what I wanted to be doing to, you know, bring my sons out into the world. So I felt there was a certain amount of oppression, and there's definitely some emotion coming up in my throat as I say that.
Is there an actual emotion?
I'm just trying to catch hold of it, because the word fear came up.
Okay. So maybe what we should do is just go with that for a moment, if that's the one that's coming up. Just like you to chant that. Fear.
Fear. Fear. Fear. Fear. Fear. Fear. Fear. Anger. anger, 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 anger. It's not as strong. Is
there anything else there, do you think? It's more fear and anger.
Yeah, I just need to stop havening for a second.
No,
well, I would like to.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so if you had an opportunity to go back there and speak to those people that were there, is there anything you'd like to say? It can be a specific person, it could be one person in particular, or it could be a group of people. Is there something that you say about how it made you feel, perhaps?
Yeah, I think I'd like to. I would like to go back and say that I'm very grateful for the care that they gave me. That I would like to recommend that they do listen a little bit more to the wishes of the mother giving birth, and that perhaps some history taking around fears beforehand, which the French are not that good at delving into emotions about things like that. It's all very well organized in terms of physical health care, but there's quite a lot of repression of emotion. So I would love for this sort of experience that I'm living through now, perhaps happening before the birth, for mothers to be able to express fears that they have, because that was never addressed, and I was not in a place where I could express that. I wouldn't have said anything without the question being asked at that time.
Yeah. So I'm going to just introduce role havening. You've touched on it already, some of it, but just for the purpose of the demonstration, if that's okay, I'd like you to imagine one of those people that you'd like to say this to. And then if you've got a name, or whether it was a doctor or a midwife or somebody that was there.
Actually,
somebody
it was the pediatrician that came around afterwards.
Okay, all right.
After the birth, to check on how I was doing, and her concern was to how I was feeling about my stomach, which was moving around, putting itself back into everything into position. And I said it felt like bread that, dough that needed kneading, and I laughed. I was still high on whatever was going through my system. But at that time, I think they're addressing feelings very much. That would have been a time, because the babies were safe, I was safe, and it would have been a free space then.
So if we just imagine, and it is partly purpose of the demonstration, that in a moment, I'm going to take on the role of the doctor. So the next voice you'll hear will be the voice of the doctor. It would be my voice, but it will be representing the doctor. And you can say whatever it is that you feel that you want to say to the doctor, if you take yourself back there. Hi, Andrea. I'm the paediatrician, and I believe you've got something you'd like to say to me.
Something that I really want to express is, well, thank you very much, first of all, for being here, and for all the wonderful care that I've been receiving, and health-wise, my sons are really, they're being taken good care of, and I'm being taken good care of physically. But there are some lots of feelings and emotions that I'd like to express, that perhaps what I'm feeling is that if I'd been able to express these things beforehand, if I'd been encouraged to express the fear, and the fear of pain, and a certain amount of feeling alone, despite all the number of people in the room, feeling very much alone myself, that the birth might have gone even easier, it might have gone a lot more easily, because I felt as though perhaps I was holding on to something, and trying to hold on to my cries that were expressing pain and fear and everything that was going on for me, must have been harmful as well for my sons to hear that. And so I really like to, I wonder if it's possible to find some way of including that in the care up to birth, the prenatal care that's available, to center a bit more on the emotions that come up and the feelings that particularly for a first-time mum. And well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to express that. And
thank you for sharing. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
That yeah, I feel a lot easier having got that off my chest. It's been there for a long while.
Good.
Particularly the part about feeling alone, even though I was in a room full of people. The baby's father was there, but he was far more concerned with his own emotions, I think, than what I was going through. So yeah, it feels a lot easier to have said, to have got all of that out the way now.
And what I hear is that you felt quite lonely, and as staff, we weren't really able to support your emotional needs in the way that you needed us to.
My emotions were never taken into account at all.
And I think this is something myself and other professionals could help other women with if we address the emotional needs, because you're not the first person who said this. There are lots of people who say this, and the emotional needs are important. And it sounds like you didn't feel heard, and you had things done to you that you weren't really in control of.
Yeah, that was it. I felt that I wasn't. I didn't feel comfortable letting go and just allowing things to go, to release. That's for sure. And I do feel better having spoken about that. And there's something coming up for me, which is I heard my voice when you said you were the doctor. I heard my voice go very small, and I heard the little high rather than the strong, assured voice that a mum, for me, the mum that I wanted to be sounded like a very small girl, that she still has things to express, and I don't know if I can go into all of that tonight, but she feels now that she's been heard and that there's quite a lot of emotion coming up. But it's a release. It's not a sadness now. It's that has been addressed, and that I'm now on the road to releasing a whole lot of tension and stress.
Yeah. I am really sorry on behalf of myself and my colleagues. I am really sorry that we didn't really meet the emotional needs for you.
God, that really hits home. That really, really feels good to hear that somebody has heard, and for all of the mums globally, collectively, thank you for saying that, because I know that if I'm experiencing this and I'm letting and I'm releasing this, that I'm also helping for other mums to be able to, other women to be able to release. Thank you.
As healthcare professionals, we still have a long way to go. So I'm going to go now, Andrea. But thank you for sharing that with me.
Thank you.
We did the best we did with the knowledge and skills we have. And we know from what you say, it was not really what you needed.
If there wasn't a screen, I'd want to hug you.
Yeah, I want to hug you too. And I'm just looking at the time, we're fine. I'm just wondering whether, now we've done a bit of releasing, just to finish, I want you to go back to the birth room, and this time it can be any birth you like. I'm going to make a new image of that birth. So when
I'm
you're ready,
I'm going to go to the birth of my youngest son.
Yeah.
Because there were 2 miscarriages, but the birth of my youngest son was so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The physical part of it, and I felt so much more mature about it. So
I'm just wondering whether to heal the birth that we were talking about, the twins' birth.
Okay.
This time, if you want to be in the water for both babies, you can do that. You can be wherever you want. Where do you want to be?
Oh, in the water.
Water. You can have both babies in the water.
Yeah, in the water.
What I'd like you to do, I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't see whether your eyes are closed or not.
Yeah, they are.
I'm just wondering if you can just try, and we're going to just try and build a bit of a new picture here for you. So you're back at the birth 25 years ago. It can be however you want it to be. You can be wherever you want. You can have there whoever you want. So you just tell me when you're ready where you are, who's there. You can be anywhere. You can be in the ocean. You can be anywhere. You can be wherever you want to be.
I'm in a river.
Mm-hmm.
The water's beautifully clear.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sandy bed, and the water's just deep enough for me to, be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just feeling really, really relaxed because I've got nature all around me, and it feels just so natural to be there.
Wonderful. Is anybody else there with you?
No, I'm on my own and I'm quite comfortable with it.
Mm.
I just feel really empowered, and the word is not in charge, but master, I'm master of my own energy, and that my sons are an extension of that energy, and that they're just ready, and I'm ready, and it just feels that in that way they are birthing into far more of their own power at the same time.
Yeah.
It just feels really relaxed and very, very natural.
And if I was there now as the midwife, obviously not too close, I'm just wondering if it's possible for you to be able to see yourself just like a goddess, born to do this. Body, you're born to do it. You know exactly what you're meant to do. Is it possible to see yourself there now at your birthing?
What I'm getting is, and I have difficulty with visualization, but what I'm getting is energy and light, and flow. It's more, that feeling of, it's just a continuation of the relaxed flow. And when you said that you were there, yes, that helped, because I was thinking, how am I going to cut the cord? Because there's 2 and I don't know how to do this. So yes, that was reassuring to know that if I needed any help, then there's somebody there that I can call to, rather than something being imposed. I know that the assistance is at hand. Yeah. And that felt really good.
Yeah. Good. So how does it feel now? How do you feel now, having just been through this process?
A lot more relaxed. The tension has gone out of my shoulders. There's still something that needs to be released, but it's coming through. Mm-hmm. And I know that, that I've been holding on to this for a long, long time. So
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, I think it may be something that we can work on. I'm not sure how big it is as to do it now, just because I'm thinking about time. I'm sorry to cut you short.
Oh, no. For now, I'm just feeling.
Do you feel?
There's the pressure is gone, and I just feel lighter and engulfed in that energy of self-empowerment.
And you look like you're in a ball of light.
Really?
Yeah, like a ball of light. Yeah. So maybe what we could do is we'll just end with a little bit of affirmational havening, and the words that you've used is feeling lighter. Is there anything else there that you'd like to, another word you'd like to use, that just to integrate all of that? Perhaps empowered. That was a word that you used.
The word that comes up that I use a lot is ease.
Ease. Okay.
Yeah.
Easy.
At ease. Ease is a really use that a lot. Yeah. So yeah, ease.
At ease.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Ease, release.
Well done. Done really well. Did a lot of work there. Well done. Okay. Anything else coming up there? Just to finish. Ease and release.
Yeah, ease, release, relief.
Relief.
Yeah.
Relieved. Well done. I'm giving you a big virtual hug.
Yeah.
Can you feel it? Big havening hug. Can you feel it?
Yes, I can. I can feel that warmth. That was lovely. Thank you so much. I felt so safe with you.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. Thank you. Thank you. Right, I'll put my glasses back on now.
Yeah, me too.
Straighten my hair again. Are you okay, Andrea?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. Yes, yeah.
So how are you? I mean, I don't know if you need a drink of water or something just for a moment.
I've got water and I'm set up.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you want to say anything about what happened there, or whether other people have got. We will have other questions, but
I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've done any havening for myself. Perhaps there was a fear as well to tap into that unassisted. Yeah. I'm quite good with going into my emotions and just letting them go through, but that's been sort of that really crystallized. So to open it up felt really freeing, and I just felt so comfortable with you and your voice and the way that you sound very assured, self-assured, but present for me. That was really beautiful. And then when you said you were sorry, that sort of that big, I think it's what we all need to hear at some point, so thank you
everyone.
Thank you.
So we've got loads of questions. I can't believe I've done quite so well. We've got about 10 minutes, 8 minutes or something before the clapping.
Well done, Alison. That's fabulous, really great. And we have got some new questions. Louise, do you want to take these questions leading up to the hour, or do you want me to?
Oh, hang on, which one?
We've got a number of them starting with Kathleen Gallick there, but if you'd like to.
Yeah, I think Kathleen, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. I mean, do chip in as well, Tony. In my experience, it's the delta state that does it. It's actually that lowering the threshold of resilience to connectivity and enabling those connections to be made on a really deep level that is the difference between the traditional therapy and talk therapy.
It's kind of like I always think of it as oil on the cogs, because so many of us have got lots of previous experience and tools and ways of working before we ever got havening in there. But it's just like that oil on the cogs of change. It just moves things along so much easier. And it'd be interesting if we could just put the question over to Alison it was just to be sure, in case some of you haven't seen it there, Kathleen's question was really about how does using havening specifically enhance the role play experience for the patient or client? We've all read extensively about havening, but wondering how havening specifically enhances the experience over a regular role play therapy experience. I mean, Alison, you did some really great role play stuff there. What is it that you perceive about the havening bit of that really makes it particularly useful and powerful?
I think probably some of it is the mirror neurons. I think that helped. I mean, even though she couldn't see me, I felt really, really connected with her. So I think, so there's more kind of going on really. And the delta waves, because it gets people to, into their subconscious mind a bit more than if you're just having a conversation. It's more difficult to access the emotions. In this work, I mean, what we've just witnessed is very similar. I mean, the issue is slightly different, but they're the same things of women feeling completely disempowered and out of control. The same themes come up: fear, anxiety, and threat, really, but just that pure disempowerment. So, I mean, I've always used it, so I don't know. I don't know.
If we could get Andrea's view on this, actually, because I know, Andrea, you've got plenty of tools in the toolkit and so on, and you've just experienced the process. From your perspective, Andrea, what is the particular benefit of the havening part of that process?
For me, it's always the gentleness, because accessing such deep feelings and emotions there, and it's a subject that for so many of us is well, yeah, I'm having difficulty expressing it, but it is, we feel very fragile, and it can be very damaging to us if all of those emotions and that disempowerment is not acknowledged. So havening for me is all about that. I use EFT for other stuff, but the havening there was just, I wouldn't have used EFT for that. It was just perfect to be able to access, and also to feel that shift to actually experience for myself the shift between the dark and the light, and to the sort of image of things being cleared up and cleared out the way that was necessary for me. So, yeah.
Just a really quick one, if you don't mind, if we could just ask you a really quick one, Andrea. There's a question asked here about where would your SUD score be right now? Curious about whether the SUD has come down to 0 or whether there's more work to be done.
It was 0, yeah, and replaced with a feeling of warmth, infusing, sort of enveloped in that warm, supportive energy. And it's really, I said on the chat, I felt very supported the whole way through. There was the group energy there, which was wonderful. So thank you to everybody for that too.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to ask Louise, if I may, just looking at the time, because we're going to be able to carry on this discussion and Q&A very shortly. I wonder, Louise, would you be able to just introduce this whole applauding our key workers bit, because we're in our last minute leading up to that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'd also, just before we do that, say I think the serotonin, the reduction of cortisol, the increase in serotonin, and that feeling of safety is a big enabling factor as well. So in the UK, at 8 o'clock every Thursday night, we have people in isolation, leaning out of windows, going into gardens, clapping for the carers. And it started off just for the nurses and doctors, but we realised the cleaners, the people that are providing the dinners. So this is a big UK experience. So people go out and bang pots and pans and clap. So here we are, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
please unmute yourselves. Please unmute yourselves.
This is all carers.
Angela's gone outside.
This has just been over a minute. So, you know, when we finish up, it's supposed to take 2 minutes. This is a long time.
I've briefly just muted because we couldn't hear there what Louise was saying. Thank you for joining in on that. We'll carry on applauding in our minds because I know we want to acknowledge everybody who's part of this. And Louise, do you want to just unmute yourself now?
Yes, I've just unmuted it. What I was saying is, if we look at when we say to people, do 2 or 3 minutes self-havening in the morning or in the evening about having a hopeful day or a restful night and building resilience. I mean, that's what we should all be doing. And it's an interesting, you say, the dentists say brush your teeth for 2 minutes, and it always seems like a lifetime. But 2 minutes of this is worth its weight in gold. So I hope we're all helping support our own resilience in this, you know, in this experience, because it is a journey that we're all on, and hoping that the world resets into a better place. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm just noticing now, if people are happy to, we're going to go on to more questions for a little while before we go into a practice. And by the way, if this is being recorded, if some of you are ready for that toilet break, just nip off during the question and answer bit, because we'll continue. But this is it'll all be captured on video anyway. I'd love you all to be back in a few minutes for the practice bit, so that would be great. So we've got one there. I don't know if you can see this one, Lou, if you wanted to read it out, from Kira McGriskin.
Where's that?
Shall I read it out? And we can just...
Yeah, I can see Keith Dewey as the last one.
Oh yeah, we're up a bit, so we'll go do them in the order here. We've got, I'm a real newbie to havening, but I wondered how much information do you need to gather on the person whose role you're playing before you can engage with them playing that role?
I think that's a really important question, isn't it? Because I know Ron in the primer, and for those that've seen Ron on the DVD, he says you should know your client well before you enter the experience of role havening. So, I mean, in terms of what we've seen with Alison, she's had a few conversations with Andrea. In my understanding briefly is that there's been a few conversations, but understanding the key roles. And what Alison did there was contain that experience in around that, and keep the language clean, and not try to use words that didn't belong to the situation. She used the words that were in the system there. And I think that, and certainly I know in my experience, I've in doing some of the discussion pre-role havening, when things have been very emotional and there's a target, I've asked questions such as, you know, so how did your dad or your mom refer to you? What was the name? Or, you know, because if I was saying, this is a name out of the blue, Alistair, you know, and the mother or father or whoever called this person Ali, it wouldn't, you know, it would be she only calls me, well, yeah. So it's about, again, using the havening ear and recognizing about keeping it simple. I don't know whether you would want to add anything to that, Tony.
I totally agree, and Alison certainly, I know when I've talked to Alison about this, she said, you know, keep that language clean, which is exactly how you just framed that.
I had no idea who she was going to bring into the role play. I was expecting something else, so obviously it's quite general when it's not a, you know, like you're, you know, a mother or a parent who's, you know, you've had a lifetime of difficulty perhaps. So perhaps because I'm doing role play for healthcare professionals, perhaps there's less of the emotional charge. But I just listen to her words, and because I've done this so much, what women need is to feel empowered, because they felt very much disempowered in the process. So the words are, you know, I can't change what paediatricians do. I wasn't expecting it to be a paediatrician. I thought it might be, you know, I didn't know who it was going to be. So we hadn't really discussed who it was going to be. The brief was that if there was somebody that you were a bit upset about, but I had no idea who that was going to be. So maybe it's because it's not so personalised.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to skip one for a moment, because one of the questions is about going through the 6 stages, so we will come back to that in a moment. Thank you for raising it, Sarah, because we want to really capture it. Maggie asks, Alison started with event havening, then transpirational, then moved to role. Is that the normal process, or would you start with transpirational if there wasn't a specific event? If it was a different situation, maybe anger at a parent or something like that instead. Do you want to pick that one up, Alison?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I'm doing birth trauma, and I mean, obviously it's what I've developed. It seems pretty clear that there has been an event, which is the traumatic birth. So you bring that down, and I find if you get them down to a 0 or a 2, because there's always going to be something else there, so you might not get them to a 0. And obviously it was difficult with timing, so I probably would have spent more time doing transpirational havening about the feelings, or just letting her do talk transpirational havening, where she just talks what happened, if that feels like it's appropriate. And then do the role havening, which is what I demonstrated, and then the outcomes. You want to build a new image. And she had a beautiful image. Imagine having twins in the river. It's beautiful. And then using the outcome. So when I'm treating birth trauma, I do all of those things, and I think there's an importance for all of that. And it's just sort of unfolded with each person I've done. It just flows into the next thing, really. And sometimes I put a bit of informational in. If people are not quite on the, you know, haven't quite worked through some stuff, we might use informational havening, but it tends to be that I use all of them during the birth trauma healing. But yeah, I didn't quite get her down to 0, because I thought she's at a 2, and I was watching the clock a bit. So I hope you don't feel shortchanged, Andrea. So I thought she's at a 2, so, you know, we know that she's not totally flooded. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think also, just to add to that, Maggie, if it was a different situation beyond birthing and there wasn't a clear event, you could just go in, say if it was anger at a parent, you could go in at that TH straight away for sure. So yeah, really using your instinct based on the context, what's being presented is key here. We've got the question from Stephanie, why did you switch to TH before the event went down to 0? There was a little bit of time thing going on here in terms of being able to demonstrate the role havening, and 2, you know, sort of 2 or 3, you know, you could see it melting out of Andrea. You know, when we've really taken the sting out of there, we've got a lot more options when the score's low, and there was this little bit of time pressure here to get the demonstration in as well. Let's have a look what else we got. That's the questions so far. I wonder if you could, Alison, please just summarize those 6 steps. This would be a good time to make notes, guys, because we're going to be moving into a practice session, and I'll say more about that. But these 6 steps, I think it'd be really great for you to be able to capture those for yourself with pen and paper. Of course, it will be on the recording for later, but for the practice, it would be fabulous.
Yeah, Tony, can I just make a comment? Is that okay? Yeah. What because of the time constraints, it may be that going into the senses and the feelings might be a bit more complicated than we would hope, and into containing it safely. So even if people only practice the clean language and the system, that in itself would I think would be helpful. So just go at your own level and be comfortable with what you're doing, because at the end we want you to feel safe and contained, and we are available. You can contact us, you know how to contact us should you wish to after today. Is that okay?
Thank you, that's great, very important. So if we could, if Alison, if you would be able to just quickly summarize the 6 key steps as you used role havening, and then I'll lead us into going into practice groups.
Sure. So the first thing is introduction. So you'll remember from the demonstration where I did feel like I was trying to manipulate a little bit to get to role havening, so forgive me. But I said in a moment you'll hear my voice, which will represent the voice of the other person, whoever that happens to be. The second step is active listening. So you're listening really intently to what they're saying, because in a minute you've got to repeat it back. Well, you don't have to, but I don't think it works. You're then mirroring their words. So active listening for the powerful things that they say. So the things that Andrea used were things like disempowered. Yeah, that's really strong, because and because I've been doing this work for some time, that's something that comes up. But you're listening for the powerful things that they say, the words they use, and the feelings and emotions they express. And you might not remember all of it, but just getting a general theme, and if you can repeat back even just a couple of the words that they're saying, it just really validates their experience from what I've discovered. And then acknowledge. So you're just acknowledging what they tell you. So when she was telling me about the paediatrician, I just acknowledged that she didn't feel heard and she felt lonely. And then an apology, because it felt appropriate to apologise. It's an apology. It's 25 years. She's never had that apology. She's never going to get that apology. So it seemed very appropriate in this scenario to apologise on behalf of the medical team, for example, because she didn't feel heard. And she went into a story about how it would have been helpful if people had listened to her and asked more questions about her emotional needs. So I was just acknowledging that for her and apologising. And I think she felt really heard at that point. And then the resolution is resolving it as the person by saying, I did the best with the knowledge, skills and experience, and sometimes situation I was in at the time. And that often is the thing that they just seem to relax and think, oh, okay, well, somebody did the best they could. That seems to be almost a bit, that seems to be the thing that seems to be, in my experience, I mean, obviously it's just my experience, but more freeing. So the steps are introduction, active listening, acknowledge what they tell you, reflect back what they say using clean language, using the words, emotions, feelings that they use, apologise if it feels appropriate. It's no harm for me to take the blame for somebody else. Yeah, so that's okay. I can let that go, but it helps to validate her. And then resolution, so by resolving the issue as the person that you're in the role of. That's it in short.
Great, thank you. So what I've done is, hopefully you made a few notes as Alison was just speaking there. I have just quickly put them in the chat box there, so hopefully you can see that as well. There's the introduce yourself as the key person, the actively listening, acknowledging them for what they've told you and thanking them for that, reflecting back words and things that they've actually said, and then apologizing, and then the resolution bit. I was doing the best I could with the skills and knowledge I had at the time. We really take on board what you've said. Have I summed up that? Yeah, okay, in the words in the chat there, hopefully. Yeah. Thank you. I know some people are heading off, and thank you for joining us. We're going to go into a practice session. We will have a chance beyond the 9 p.m. close of the meeting. We're going to just leave it running and leave it open in case people have got more questions, and we'll come back to answer any that we can't have any time to do tonight. We can answer them on the forum on Facebook as well. So keep your questions coming. Actually, we have got time for another one here. I've just noticed another one pop up from Kishana. oh, okay, maybe it's a statement. As a midwife, NLP practitioner, etc., I've worked for years now with birth trauma, including stillbirth, miscarriage, and the spectrum of loss. I've found role-based practices incredibly powerful, from being the health professional or family member all the way to being the guardian angel, future self, and so on. Havening has exponentially transformed those practices, making them faster, and results appear to be long-lasting. Thank you for sharing that, Kishana. Really appreciate you sharing your experience there. Okay, good. So what we're going to do in terms of separating you into little breakout groups here, and this will be the first time I've ever done this. So I've practiced with 2 people just this week, and it worked with the 2 people, but we've got currently 51 people. So let's just see how this works out. Let me just have a look at this for a second. One sec. Okay, so we really need to have 17 groups, I think. So, oh, we've gone down to 47. Okay. So we'll put 15 groups together, and then we'll see if there's others left who need our input. We'll sort it one way or another. So I'm going to set up 15 groups. What we're going to do here, obviously the demo was on birthing trauma, but what I would encourage for this is that we have a practitioner, and if there's 3 in your group, which there will be for most of you, a practitioner, a client, and an observer. So decide between you who's going to be practitioner, client, and observer. And we'd like you to choose something quite minor. Maybe it's something where something's happened at some point, and there's lingering thoughts about an individual and the way they perhaps treated you or responded to you that's just a bit bothersome. So we're not going for big trauma stuff here. We've only got a short amount of time to work on this, and also we can't be in all the breakout rooms. If this was like a live training in person, we'd be able to be there physically observing and seeing how people are and lending a hand if necessary, a little bit of a word as and when needed. But you're going to be in your groups on your own. So please just choose something that's a little bit bothersome rather than anything very heavy. And it can be any context. It can be anything along your timeline, if you like. If you felt that there wasn't anything bothersome to deal with, you could do a little bit of role havening on meeting wisest self or future self about some goal that you've got that you want to work on, or something like that if you prefer. But if you have got something bothersome, you can go through those 6 steps, which would be really great for you to have an experience of. What we'd like to do is keep it to about 20 minutes. So if you have got a clock handy on your laptop or on your phone, or you've got a physical clock on your desk or whatever, can I encourage you to keep an eye on that? What I do is, when the time's coming to about 20 minutes, what I do is I invite you all to come back to the group, and you'll get a 2-minute sort of warning, if you like. It will be a countdown from that point of the invite. Now, obviously, if we were in a physical room, I'd be able to see how you're all doing and time that perfectly. But you'll be out of sight, if you like. I'll be able to dip into groups, but I'll largely be out of sight of you guys. So keeping an eye on the clock would be great, because you only get that 2-minute warning there. Okay, so I'm going to now put you in these breakout groups. We're down to 39. Okay, here we go. That's going to be 13 groups, right? It'd be great for those of you who've had your cameras off. Obviously, it will make it much more personal for you to be with cameras on. So about 20 minutes, it's 20 past the hour by my reckoning at the minute. So we'll be trying to get everyone back together on 22 the hour. here we go, I'm going to create the breakout rooms now. You'll be invited to go into a breakout room and you'll accept.